So I think I've met everyone that's online. There's no one that I haven't met before. So this is our fourth and final online referee session for 2025, but we will be back in 2026 in February to have some more of these information sessions. This one is different to what we've had in the past. The last couple of weeks have been ones where we'd known in advance what information and education we wanted to share with our members across Australia. But this one was put together by input from our different referees that have been on the line on different calls. So what I'm going to do is, as I have done in all of the others, I'm going to share with you a presentation. Just because I now can't see many people, can someone let me know if they can actually see that presentation in front of the screen?
Yes.
Yes, thanks, Kat. Yep, and there's a thumbs up. Excellent. Okay, so tonight's session, as I said, is it's a combination of three things. It's, as you can see on the overview that I've put there in front of you, it's working well as a referee team, meaning you and your colleague. So some points on things to maybe think about so that the two of you are together and in sync in your refereeing. The second area that I was asked that I could put some information together for is how to perform in high pressure games and situations. So it could be a whole game. It could be that it's a grand final. It could be that it's the top two teams in the league. It could be that it's the team wins or loses this game, depends whether they get relegated depending on the situation. And also there can be high pressure situations within a game. So it might just be two players niggling with one another. There might be a red card that you have to give, something like that. So sometimes there's an entire game that has a lot of pressure around it. So sometimes it's just a certain situation. So we'll look at some things that can maybe help you in those situations. And the third aspect we'll look at tonight is dealing with conflicting feedback from delegates. And this is something that happens a lot because we're all human, and we'll look at that area as well. So that generally happens more in a championship environment. So maybe at the state titles, maybe at NSC, maybe at AYC, where there's a lot of different delegates that you could have on your game, and they might be coming with different pieces of information, and how do I actually manage that? And then what I'm going to do is, after each of these sections, because they sort of tie together but they don't necessarily, what we'll do is we'll stop, we'll ask questions after each section and ask you to also share your thoughts. And it'd be really good so you don't just hear me talking all night. If as we get to the end of each section, there might be something that I'd really like you to be able to share in either an experience that you've had, and it'd be great to hear from some of our newer referees on the call, not just our experienced referees, on some situations that you've maybe been in and how you handled it, and did you think that was good, or could you have done something different? And also for me, that's really important is something that we've spoken about tonight, what it is that you think you can really take and apply to the game. Because this isn't like the rules. This isn't as easy as presenting the rules, because these are just my opinions on things that can help you. It's not necessarily the only way, and it definitely isn't. And there might be things that I mentioned that you think, no, that wouldn't work for me, but maybe this aspect will. So tonight's really about taking what's put forward and working out what will work for you and what doesn't. So please, if you've got any questions on the way through, even if it's not the end of a section, don't hesitate to put your hand up. Just unmute when I'm going from one slide to the other and ask your question. Or again, give an example of something that you've experienced that would be good to share with the rest of the group. So if we're happy with that, let's move along to the first topic, which is working well as a referee team. So I think the important thing in this is referees have a shared responsibility for the game. It doesn't matter if there's a senior referee, a World Aquatics referee, and a development referee or a non-accredited referee. You both have responsibility for that game, and each of you will play different parts. It's important that you then have a front together, because you need to be able to build communication, consistency, and confidence for all the stakeholders. And all the stakeholders in the game, as we've discussed before, they're the players, they're the coaches, they're the people doing the table duty, they're all of the spectators. And if you work really well as a team, meaning you and your fellow referee, that gives confidence to those people that are participating and watching the game. It's also important for fairness, because again, we want both teams to be treated fairly across this. We have to apply the rules consistently. Important also to maintain game flow and control. So by that, I mean working with your partner so that we're on the same page. I don't want to be calling a foul every single time the person gets the ball when they've got the ability to kick away and play on, whereas my team or my fellow referee is allowing that play on, because then the players and the coaches are getting confused. So we want to try and be on the same page with how we're going to maintain the flow of the game and also the control. And really important that we support each other throughout the game. We never, regardless of the situation, want to be putting down our fellow referee in public or in front of other people to see. So really important that we're a united front and we work together for the benefit of the players and the coaches that are participating in the game. So what are some actual things that can help you address the previous issues on the slide or the previous aspects? So really important that, and I know I've said this in previous presentations, you need to be really familiar with the competition that you're refereeing in and the specific rules and regulations that apply to that. So that could be as simple as, how long is each quarter? Do we have penalty shootouts? Are timeouts allowed? Do you have to have 2 goalies? So making sure that you are aware of that, because every competition that you referee in within Australia will have a different set of rules. So really, really important, because there's nothing worse than you getting to the end of the game, it's a draw, and you start to walk away and the teams go, oh, don't we have a penalty shootout? Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, we meant to. So again, working well, make sure the two of you have a chat before the game if there's any questions that you're not sure of the rules that we need to apply. Yes, Gail.
Sorry, I think one of the hardest ones where there's consistency about the rules is the under 12s and the under 14. So that's a biggie, to make sure that you check if there is a participation rule being played, whether it's, if it is in play, if it's only the first 2 quarters. Some competitions have it every quarter. So just make sure you're on top of that and how it's to be applied.
Yeah, thanks, Gail. And the same with the under 12s that Gail mentioned. Sometimes they use smaller goals, sometimes they use bigger goals, sometimes they have modified rules. So it just depends, and really, really important, especially for those of you that might be coming to the Queensland state titles. Whether you're Queenslanders or not, they're not the same rules as BMJC. So really important that, even though you might not like reading competition manuals, at least read the sections that are relevant for you as a referee. The other thing that I really encourage, and this is sometimes difficult when you're in a situation where you might be refereeing back-to-back games and maybe with different referees, but there should still be at least a couple of minutes between every games for you to have a quick chat with your fellow referee. So are there any, especially if you're not wearing headsets, and a lot of the time you won't be. If you're refereeing at the state titles in Queensland, we're very lucky that we've got 5 sets of headsets, 5 fields of play. We will be wearing headsets in all of the games. So it makes your communication throughout the game a lot easier. But if you don't, How are you going to communicate with each other via hand signals or some signal that allows the other referee to know that you need their attention for something? What are some non-verbal cues that you can do? Is it something that you're going to signal between a goal? And then, okay, if you've got a quarter time break, obviously you can talk then. But try and set these cues, signals with each other before the game starts. The other thing that is really, really important to ensure that the whole field of play is being monitored is to work with your referee on, are you doing the 4-2 or the 3-3 format? And I've got a diagram on the next slide that will explain what I mean by that. And the other thing is to have a chat with each other about what are your expectations for the behaviour of coaches and players. So again, from a coach's perspective, as long as they're not straight away over the top, we'll warn, then we'll yellow card, then we'll red if we need to. How are we going to manage the players? Those types of things. Making sure that there's always somebody looking at the bench every now and then to make sure the right number of people are on the bench, the assistant coach is seated, those type of things. So again, who's going to do what? Making sure that everyone's on the same page. Now, as I mentioned on the previous slide, it's, are we going 2-4 or are we going 3-3? So by that, I mean, know the area and your focus. So my fantastic diagram that is there in front of you, because I am dreadful at technology, so I was surprised I could even come up with this, is imagine you are on the referee standing on the position 3-4 side. So you are attacking to your right. That black thing is a goal. I'm sure you worked that out, but anyway, in case you didn't, that's what it's meant to be. So when I talk about knowing your area and what you're focusing on, the attacking referee, as we all know, referees to their right, and generally positions 2 and 3. So in Australia, we number around the mushroom, as you can see in front of you. So number 1 is what we used to refer to as the right wing, 2 is the centre forward, 3 is the left wing, 4 is the left flat, 5 is the point, and 6 is the right flat. But it's just much easier to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the players know this, all the coaches know this. So as referees, it's also important that we use the same terminology. The majority of the time, you will use the format 4-2. So if I'm the attacking referee, I should be looking at positions 2 and positions 3. So the centre forward and the player at my feet. The defensive referee should pick up the other 4 players on the perimeter. Sometimes, if position 4 sneaks closer to position 3, that referee in attack may call the fouls on that position as well. But most of the time, position 4 should be at the defensive referee. Now, why is this important? Because if we are both looking at the same position, so let's say both referees are looking at position 4, who's watching position 1, 6, and 5? So really important to know where you're looking. If we ever have both referees blow the whistle at the same time, this isn't always a good thing because it means both of us are looking in the same position. But sometimes it will happen because players don't sit in the same position. They might drift from one place to another. But the fewer double whistles that we can have, it means there's more of a chance that we're watching the whole field. So if you talk to your fellow referee before the game, are we happy with a 4-2 situation? Hopefully everyone knows what we mean by that. So communication during the game. So as I said before, we are working as a team. We are not there as 2 independent referees. You are there to help each other out and referee in unity. And it should never be a your area, my area. Now, I know on the previous slide, I spoke about generally what we look at, but that doesn't mean if I'm the defensive referee and I see the centre back holding the right shoulder or holding above the water, my attacking referee cannot see that because obviously the player is in the way. So if there's no ball and the centre forward is struggling and that defensive referee can see the hold on their side, of course they can call that exclusion because I can't see through 3 sets of people. But ensuring before you blow that whistle, you need to ensure that the referee is not playing an advantage. So if the ball is in the centre forward, for example, and they've got the hold of the ball, and I'm letting that player play on because obviously they're holding the ball, as the defensive referee, if you see the centre back holding, you're not going to kick out in that situation because one, the centre forward is holding the ball, but also your attacking referee is playing advantage. So don't worry about calling things in another person's area if you don't believe they can see it, because together you need to see everything. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to trust your referee. If I don't trust the referee that I'm working with, then I'm looking everywhere trying to make calls. So I really need to understand that between the two of us, we're going to be able to manage this game clearly. And again, really clear hand signals for the players as well as each other. There was a situation I saw at the weekend where both referees called different numbers that were excluded. So that was confusing for the players. So whether it was just a miscommunication or I meant 8, but I should have done 13, but that was not, the referees were not in sync with one another, and that disadvantaged the players. So in that situation, we need to stop the ball, stop the game, take the ball out, and then the referees need to decide, was it 8, was it 13, not disadvantage the players and put the ball back into play to make sure that no one's disadvantaged. The other thing that I'd be suggesting to help each other out during the game is to have some verbal cues. So if we're not wearing headsets, like if I am the defensive referee and I'm trying to help out my attacking referee, I can be doing things like this, meaning, come on, play on. I can't see anything that's wrong from my side. Keep playing and you can make the call when you need to. Those types of things. If you've got headsets, speak to each other. All good, play on, nothing happening in back play. All good, centre forward's not being held, play on. So really important that you then communicate with each other and work out the best way to do that, especially if you don't have the headsets. As I spoke about before, managing the flow of the game is really important. I've already spoken about the first couple, but the third dot point is also something that is vital in working as a team when you are refereeing. And it's making sure that when we're transitioning, so transitioning, I mean when one team is going from attack to defence and obviously vice versa. If I was the attacking referee and the ball is now moving to the other end and I'm becoming the defensive referee, I'm not to go racing down the field of play. I need to rely on my fellow referee, who's now the attacking referee, to control the counter-attack. I need to stay back where I am, make sure with my body positioning, I've got view of the whole field in front of me and stay in line with those back players. Because if I go racing down the pool and I don't have those players in my vision, who knows what's going to happen. Some players are very smart, and if they're getting upset with their player or something's happened, if they can see that you're not looking at them, they might do something that we don't want them to do. But if you position yourself, wait in the transition, trust your attacking referee to look after the counter-attack, then you can come through behind and you're controlling the whole field of play between the two of you. So really important to work on that. I know it's very tempting to go running down the pool or to focus on where the ball is, but that's not your role as that defensive referee. So again, just really try and build that into your game. That little bit of discipline to watch where you're meant to watch, not where maybe the action is that you go, oh, what's happening up there? But for you at that point, that is not your concern. You need to rely on your attacking referee to help you. And the other thing that's important in managing the flow of the game is you've got to be able to read and anticipate what might be going to happen. So you might have seen the same two players go from centre forward to centre back a couple of plays in the row, and they might be getting niggly at one another, or one might have said something, or one might have been excluded for fouling. You've got to watch those things to make sure it doesn't escalate into anything. So again, if you get the chance, try and get contact with your fellow referee. You know, I'm watching and even just doing things like I'm watching this is no problem. Even if the players see you do that, they know that you're watching them, so they're less likely to do something. And definitely when you change over at quarter time, discuss at half time. If you see a couple of players that are really getting a bit niggly whenever they're together, just say, keep an eye on 5 white and 6 blue. I've noticed the last couple of minutes they're getting a little bit aggravated, for example, with one another. And I had a situation at the weekend where I was refereeing a Premier League game, and with the referee that I was refereeing at, I said at half time, you know, this is a close game. There's a lot on the line. It's a semi-final. Just keep an eye on this pair because I think it could escalate. And again, you want to be ahead of the game in that situation. Again, staying calm and staying united. So again, these are just discussing some of the things that I've already spoken about. But again, you need to use the tools that you have to your advantage. So we know we have cards if we need them. We know that if the game is getting a little bit niggly, I can call the captains over and talk to them and just say, this game is getting a little bit niggly. It's not out of control yet. We're not going to handle any more of this. If this behaviour continues, we will have to start excluding more players, for example. But if you see your fellow referee talking to the captains, they're not talking to them about what they're doing after the game or where they're going for coffee. They're obviously talking about there's something escalating that we don't want to happen. Now, you're not likely to hear that conversation because it's 15, 20 metres away. But you need to be smart enough to understand, okay, my fellow referee has spoken to them about controlling the game, getting it settled down. I need to pick up my game as well and be ready for anything that might happen. So again, it's just working with one another, understanding what your fellow referee is doing in that situation. And the last thing about working well in a team is learning together from each other after the game. Again, you don't always have an hour to sit down and do this, but you've always got 2 or 3 minutes. Signing the card, have a quick chat. So again, you know, talk to each other. What do we think worked well in that? Because remember, you've spoken to each other before the game, so maybe reflect on those things. Did that work well? Or what maybe could we have done differently? And share feedback with one another. As referees, we need to be open constantly to feedback. The moment we are not prepared to listen to others, whether they are a referee of the same level of us, whether they're a referee is a higher level, or a referee who's a lower level, we can all learn from one another. So share that feedback in a constructive way. Like, I don't want to say to my fellow referee, I have no idea what you were thinking when you made that call. That was just ridiculous. Like, that doesn't help anything. But the conversation might be, oh, when you called that 5 metre on 6 blue, from where I was, I couldn't see why you called it. Can you explain to help me out? So you can always word it in a positive way to get some interaction going between you. There are always things that have been done well. So again, acknowledge that with one another. Like, I think we did this really well. Well done. And we learn from that. And that's something we can continue to do in all our games when we go forward. And again, every game that you referee is an opportunity to learn and improve. It doesn't matter what level it is. Like, you know, I will go and referee under 12 games. I still learn things from participating in those games. So again, it's being open, being prepared to learn and being prepared to improve a little bit every single day and every single game that you do. So what I'd like now is hopefully one or two of you or three are prepared to share with the rest of us on the call something that in that you found useful that you would like to then be able to apply to situations that you've got coming up. Either that, or the other thing that you might like to share with the group is what's a situation that you've been in recently where you've used some skills to work with your fellow referee and it's ended up in a positive outcome for the game. So please unmute and fire away. Don't be shy. I can see Gail. Thank you.
Sorry, I thought I'd kick it off and hopefully everyone will be comfortable enough to share something.
Thank you.
At the recent NSC Champs in Canberra, I had the privilege of delegating a game that was being officiated by two younger AWL referees. And weirdly enough, they had never refereed a game together.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now, both of them realised that it was going to be a good game. And because they hadn't refereed together, I suggested that perhaps they share with each other what their feedback has been to date and what they're trying to work on in the game, because we don't want to be working on something that the other person doesn't know about and then all of a sudden they're going, what was that? Mm. So the two had a good conversation and it was great. I could hear them talking about, you know, if you see me doing this, can you just signal, you know, with your fingers or whatever for me to move because I'm working on my positioning. And yeah, anyway, they did an outstanding job on the game. You would never have known that they hadn't refereed together. Mm. It was a tight game. And there were times where verbally they, you know, said to the coaches, we need you to calm your boys down a bit, starting to get a little bit out of hand. The coaches respected that because it wasn't an instant card. It was something that they could communicate with to calm it down, but knowing that if it didn't, then the cards would come out. So it was a great result for both of them, and they were both so happy at the end of it. And I just thought, yeah, that was good, especially if you haven't refereed with someone. Let them know what you're working on and you can help each other.
That's great. Thanks, Gail. Really good example to share with everyone else. It would be great if one other person would like to share something. But if you don't feel comfortable, then happy to move on to the next session. Thanks, Will. You're still on mute there. Sorry, Will.
Sorry, pressed the wrong button. Yeah,
that's okay.
The point you were talking about, clarifying a decision with your fellow referee, it worked really well the other week. I was refereeing with someone and they paid a 5-metre penalty. And I was the trailing referee, and from my angle, the player hadn't turned to face goal, and there was actually another defender on his his right shoulder. So I just asked him what was his feeling about the 5-metre, or what was he seeing, and it worked out really well. We were able to, you know, I was able to get a good understanding of why the decision, and I was also able to share, well, did you notice the defender that was nearby? So maybe a kick out rather than the 5-metre.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Will. Okay, is there anyone else that wants to share anything before we move on to the next section? Maybe you can get the courage to share something with the next section. And I'm going to ask you the same two questions at the end of section 2. So might give you a chance to think about that as we're going. Okay, so the second topic that I was asked to present on is how to perform in high pressure games and situations. So again, as I explained in the intro, sometimes it's the entire high pressure game. Other times there's just situations within a game. So again, this is not written anywhere in research. All of this presentation is my experience that I'm pulling together to hopefully be able to share something with you. There are many other ways and situations that you could look at as well. So I think what makes water polo such a high pressure environment, full stop, is it's a fast paced contact sport. It happens a lot under the water. So there's a lot of things that we can't see or we're expected to see through the water to be able to see what's going on. Constant decisions are being made under pressure. In a split second, you've got half a second to determine a really complex situation. Is this an exclusion? Is this a penalty? Is this an illegal player? What is it? So apart from all of those things, as you would all be very well aware, and similar to a message that Gail shared an example or two ago, is there are usually vocal coaches, passionate players, and noisy spectators. So when you've got all of that going on, as well as the 4 dot points above, it's a really difficult game to referee. So taking that into consideration, a lot of the times that you're refereeing, you are refereeing in high pressure situations of some description, and the level might change. So I think what's important here is your mindset, because you never know when a situation in a game can explode. You might think in advance this game's going to be high pressure, or you might think it's going to be really low key, but it ends up being really tight and the players, escalate their behaviour. So you've got to have the right mindset going into every single game. You'd never go and relax thinking this is a cruisy game, nothing's going to happen. You always have to be prepared and ready to react to what the players and coaches are doing. But in saying that, to me, the most important thing about that preparedness is staying calm and composed under pressure. And if you can remain calm and composed, the others around you will generally stay calm and composed as well. And you need to have confidence going into the game that you are ready for it, that you know that you are mentally and physically ready for it. Now, physically ready, look, we don't need to be like a soccer referee and a football referee that runs, 5 kilometres, 6 kilometres per game. But physically, you can still, and I wear my little watch that tells me, you can still do 2 to 3 kilometres of walking in a full game. But if you're doing 2, 3, 4 games in a day in Queensland in 35 degree heat, it's exhausting. So you need to be physically prepared and ready for the games. Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you're staying out of the sun when you don't need to be in the sun. Making sure you've got enough rest beforehand. And as I said, mentally prepared. As I said before, don't go in thinking it's an easy game, because then you're going to get stung and you're going to be in trouble. So if you go in prepared mentally and physically, then it's going to be a huge head start for the game. The other thing is to stay focused on the game, not what's happening around you. It was very disappointing for me to see, even in our Premier League games last Sunday, during the game, a number of referees, but mainly one. Like, yes, they'd be refereeing, but they're turning around, they're talking. You could tell that their number one focus was not on the game. They were more about entertaining the crowd, making sure that the peanut gallery were laughing at some of the things that they were saying. This is not on. Like, if that game had escalated into something, they weren't focused, they weren't ready for it. So you're there to referee, you're not there to entertain and talk to people around you, so you've really got to focus on that. And if you can feel that the pressure is rising, so like that example I gave before, those 2 players were niggling each other, maybe you're finding yourself losing that concentration, you need to find something that works for you to bring you back to be present in the game. It might be to take a deep breath. It might be to try and slow your breathing or the way you walk back to halfway. What I do for myself, and if you see me do this in a game, probably it could be that it's very hot, but if I need to try and recompose and I think I'm losing my concentration, after a goal, I'll make sure the teams are back at halfway and I'll grab a drink, just have a drink, turn, go back to the game. So again, that might work for others. It might not. So you need to find something that works for you, that if you find yourself drifting, what can get me back in the game? Because you need to be present and ready to make decisions that they need to. The other thing we've got to try and do is prevent before something happens. So again, you've got to be able to read the behaviour of the games. Now, Gail, I know, will be able to understand the game that I'm referring to, and others may if they've seen it. There was a game that we had in AWL in the season just gone, where unfortunately there were 7 red cards. And after the first 2 minutes of that game, I was sitting with 2 other referees, and I said to those 2 referees, who were very experienced referees as well, this game is going to get out of control. And unfortunately, in that, they both agreed with me, and that wasn't the unfortunate part. The unfortunate part was it did. Now, we could see in the first 2 minutes, by the way the referees were refereeing that game, and the players had total control over what they were doing, that did escalate. So you've got to be able to read that as a referee. Watch the players. What reactions are they giving to every call you're making? What niggling is going on? Because you need to get on that straight away. Because if you don't, those situations are going to escalate really quickly, and you're going to have to be performing in a pressure cooker situation that you might not be ready for. So really, really important that you can try and identify some of those player behaviours that are allowing for that escalation. Sometimes it's as simple as positioning yourself better on the side of the pool. Position yourself and stare at a pair of players if you need to. Like, I'm watching you. I'm not taking my eyes off you. I can see what you're trying to do. So again, just use your body positioning, your verbal cues if need be, your non-verbal cues, so that the players know, oh, she's watching what I'm doing, I better be careful here. And again, if you're on headsets with your referee, which at that type of level you would be, communicate. Look, we've really got to get on this. We've got to start calling more exclusions. We've got to watch this. We've got to watch the 2-handed pull pass, because this, I can see this is about to explode. So again, if you can see that but your fellow teammate can't, you've got to help each other out and communicate it. So really important that you are watching your players' reactions in the water to try and avoid these situations. And stemming on from that, use the communication, whether it's verbal or non-verbal, to your advantage. So I want to be really clear and confident. And I'll give a funny example of this one. I was refereeing, actually it was my husband's team, and that whole grandstand cracked up, which was hilarious. So it was a 2 metre awarded to his team, and I was the defensive referee, so I was on his side. And he was just standing there holding the ball, not putting it into the water in front, because he was obviously trying to get people in position. So I really quickly blew the whistle loudly, and I'm pointing and like, put the ball in the water. And I changed the way that I was blowing the whistle. And he responded quickly and put the ball in the water. And the grandstand thought it was hilarious because, again, I could see what he was trying to do, but I wasn't going to let him have that over me. I'm in control of the game. You need to do what you're asked to do. So again, it's recognising that situation. I didn't have to say, put the ball in, stop being silly. I just changed my whistle blow and loudly, and he put the ball in the water. So just one example, but there's many things that you can do there. Again, if you do need to talk to the players, you need to remain calm and professional and keep it short and sharp. Number 5, that's enough, no more. Next time, you'll be excluded. Or next time will be a yellow card for the team. Or play on, come on, whether that's with your hand, whatever it might be. So use communication and the tools you've got to your advantage. And as I said, work with your fellow referee. Help each other out. If you can see something that they can't, help them out on the headphones by signalling. Because you'd rather deal with it now before it gets to that high pressure situation that you're then really struggling in. Now, if you do have to make a decision, now usually your decisions under pressure are usually if you have to issue a red card. Yellow cards are okay because it's not getting rid of anyone, it's just giving them a warning. But if you do have to issue a red card in a game, it's not something you want to be doing. But the behaviour of the players or the officials has brought you to the fact that you need to do it. But some things that I think, hopefully, might help you in this situation. So stay objective. Focus on facts, not emotions. Number 6 did this. Not, oh, why did number 6 do that? Maybe he got kicked or maybe he's not in a good mood today. What are the facts? And stay objective about what's happened. And I need to be fair and apply the same standard to both teams, whether it's the white team or the blue team. If you're not sure, so I see something and I go, oh, I think I'm going to have to get rid of a player here. Is it misconduct? Is it violent action? So if you are not sure, pause. Half a second, think about what you're about to do. If you know, okay, I'm definitely going to have to give a red card, I just need to process, is it misconduct? Is it violent action? Blow the whistle, signal for the ball. By you stopping the game and taking the ball out, it is giving you time to then, in your mind, think about what you saw and what you're going to decide. If you have got headsets on, talk to your fellow referee. Did you see the situation between 3 blue and 9 white? And they might say, yes, he punched her, that's unlikely. He punched the other player with a clenched fist, or I didn't see anything. So communicate with one another. Then you need to make your decision. Your initial decision is usually right. It's called a gut feeling. I'm not going to go into why it's a gut feeling, but generally your gut feeling is right. Don't second guess yourself. If you thought it was a violent action, it most likely was. So make your decision, stick with it, and trust that the decision that you've made is right. Don't then dwell on it going, oh, should it have been this, should it have been that? Should I have just let it go? Make your decision, stick with it, communicate it, make sure everyone is really clear, and then move on. Again, these situations are really awful. There's nothing, I hate giving red cards. I'm not one known for giving out cards. I probably accept a lot more than I should. It doesn't worry me, but I'm an experienced referee. And many a time I get told you shouldn't be as flexible, especially overseas, with these players or coaches. But again, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. So, but if I do have to red card, I need to remember it's not against the person, it's against the action that they've done. So I need to keep the emotions away from the facts. So again, stay calm, be objective, focus on the facts, trust your gut feeling, and go with that. And if you've got headsets, talk to your fellow referee. So again, a little bit more in here. Keep neutral with your body language. It's not as though, oh, I'm so excited I've got to give this red card. I have seen people give red cards with grins on their face. This is not acceptable. Can you imagine if you're receiving the red card and you see the referee smiling? It's like, haha, I've got you. That's what a smile on the face giving a red card looks like. And that's not what should happen. So we remain neutral. We're not smiling. We're not laughing. We're not doing anything like that. It's just, unfortunately, this is the facts. Neutral, move on. Also, we don't want to get into an argument with players or coaches. No, what was that red card for? Just move up. You don't need to stand there and explain your decisions. Even if it's not a red card, what was that exclusion for? If they ask in a nice way and it's an appropriate time, oh, number 6 was holding. But if they're not asking in a nice way and they're basically questioning your call and arguing it, you don't need to get involved in a dialogue. And if they continue, it's just, that's enough. Next time I'll need to give you a card. Again, reinforcing, use the captains to communicate. So you can't get both coaches together and have a conversation, but if you can see things are getting heated, call both captains together, as I explained before. And I've already spoken about the positioning. Other things here is support each other. Again, even if you don't agree with the decision that person, that your follow referee has made, you need to support them, especially in public. You might talk about it, and Will gave us not an example such as this, but something where he maybe had a different view of something. In private, you can talk to your referee, your fellow referee, about a decision that you didn't understand that they made. But in public, you are united in your decisions. Now, again, a situation that we had at the weekend, only because it was raining and we didn't want to use the headsets for obvious reasons, I would assume. There was a time that the two referees had to come together. So you need to make sure, especially when it's getting heated in the water, do not leave the side of the pool and come together without separating the players. So if you need to leave pool deck, as in the side of the pool, and come to the end to talk to each other, before you do that, put both teams in their half of the field of play. The one that stands there at the end and watches them, the other one walks around. You still, even when you're talking to each other, are watching the players. You've got to have control of the game the whole time. Don't stand there for 4 minutes discussing what's just happened. You've got to discuss it quickly, make a decision and move on. If your fellow referee says, look, I didn't see anything, then you've got to make the decision straight away, quickly walk back and make the decision. But again, don't spend for hours waiting to discuss. You know, an example of that was at the World Championships earlier this year. Even with VAR, one decision took over 6 minutes, for the referee to review. And that's not good. The players are sitting in the water waiting, the coaches, everyone's getting frustrated. So really important to try and make that decision as quickly as possible. We are all human. Every single person in every game will make mistakes. And I mean every person. Referees, coaches, players. No one will be perfect and no one will ever have a game where they didn't do something wrong. So we are human, we will make mistakes. Don't be too harsh on yourself if you made a mistake. You need to forget it. You cannot change the past. Past is the past, you cannot change it. You need to reset and focus on the present. Because if you keep dwelling on that mistake and you keep playing it over and over in your head, oh, I got that wrong, what's that going to do now? You're going to make another mistake and the situation is going to get harder for you. And you're going to dig the hole deeper and the situation is just too difficult to manage. So I know it's difficult. Be like a goldfish. Forget about it, move on and make your next decisions really good to be able to have them as the things that people remember, not the error that you might or will make at different times. And again, think about something that can mentally reset you. I know some people have certain words that they use. I know some people do different physical action that can get them to reset. Everyone is different. You need to find something that'll help you move on. And the last part is still about moving on. And again, I'm giving you another minute or so warning because this is then your chance to have your say here, is after the game, you need to reflect and learn from those difficult calls or the mistakes that you made. Because the game is now finished. You can't change anything now. But what you can do now is reflect on that. Okay, So why did I get that wrong? Was I standing in the wrong position and couldn't see what I needed to see? Was I jumping in too quickly and not playing the advantage? So rather than just go, oh, I got it wrong, try and think through, why did I get it wrong? So next time you won't put yourself in that situation. It might just be that I just stopped concentrating. Okay, if that's the case, what can you do next time to make sure you don't have that lapse of concentration? So there's always something you can learn from that mistake. So again, really, really important thing to learn from our mistakes. And I think the other thing is, learning from our mistakes means we have to admit that we've made mistakes. So you need to be humble enough to be able to go, yeah, I got that wrong, but I've learned from it. I'm going to be resilient. I'm not going to go, oh, I give up refereeing, it's just all too hard. I'm going to be resilient and humble enough to go, okay, I got that wrong. Yep, but I'm going to bounce back and I'm not going to make the same mistake in the next game that I referee. And if it's not just a mistake that you've made, maybe it is a challenging encounter. So you've had to give a red card, or you've given a couple of red cards or something. Use that as a chance to, again, build character and learn from it. I had a situation a couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to go into the detail, but it was a really awful situation for me to be in a refereeing situation. I did not feel good about it, but I had to do what I did, and it really made me think about afterwards, was there something I could have done earlier in the game that could have stopped the situation that happened? So it made me sit down and really reflect, was there something I could do? Did I see anything that could have led to that situation happening that I'd missed? And talking with my fellow referee about, okay, I couldn't see that building. Did you see anything that we both missed that led to that situation? So again, treat every challenging encounter that you come across as a learning experience, because you need to turn those difficult situations into something positive that you can then learn from and move on. Because you will come across difficult situations in games, not regularly, but more often than you would want to. And you'll have high pressure situations and games throughout your career, especially as you move up. Now, again, I'm very conscious of time, and we have only got, another 5 minutes or so, but the next one is fairly quick and I can move through that quickly. If people need to go, I understand. I'm happy to share this information, but I do think the next section is a bit smaller, but also has some valuable information. But before we move on to that, thinking about what we've just presented, or what I've just presented, in how to manage yourself before, after and during a high performance situation or a game, are there any comments or questions that anyone would like to make in that section, or something you've learned that you will be able to apply if you find yourself in this situation in the future? Or everyone's fallen asleep? No one wants to share anything there? Okay.
Nicola, I'll just say one thing.
Thanks, Gary.
Just on the reset, that's very important between like quarters and games to reset, especially teaching younger refs to, don't worry about what's just happened, just take the next quarter on. I think it's and the other thing that I always do with the younger refs is just don't get intimidated by the players that are playing. Just look at the white caps, blue caps, white, black, blue caps. Don't worry about who's playing or what's happening, because they see a player who might be a very good player that they know is a very good player, and we all know you referee Olympians and they know all the tricks in the trade. So you just got to concentrate that they're blue player, white player, blue player, white player, not see who the actual players are. I've found that the last few years, once I've done that, I found it a lot easier to ref.
Yeah, no, really good points, Gary, especially that second one. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm refereeing Reece Howden. He can do nothing wrong. He's a 4-time Olympian. So yeah, absolutely. He's the same, to be treated the same as the person on the opposing team who's only played water polo for 6 years and hasn't played at the Olympics. So no, really good point. Thanks, Gary. Okay, again, as I said, conscious of time, I'll jump over to the next one. And again, happy to, in a future meeting, if people want to discuss this further. But this is really important, this one, if you're refereeing at a competition, a tournament that goes for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. So dealing with conflicting feedback from delegates. So why does it happen? Well, it happens because delegates emphasize different priorities. So I might be emphasising the flow of the game. Will might be emphasising play advantage. Gail might be emphasising control. Gary might be emphasising the positioning of your play. So you're not always going to get the same perspectives are being put forward to you. Also, there are varying situations or interpretations of the same situation. So not everyone is going to agree that that's a penalty because of their knowledge that they're bringing or their experience that they're bringing. Even when we have sat down and watched videos with a whole room of international referees, there will still be some situations where those international referees cannot agree on the same decision. So if we can't get the international referees to agree, we've got Buckleys of getting everyone to agree. So we need to try and get as many of these interpretations out of the game, but we do need to understand that there are just some times that the same situation is going to be interpreted differently. And we also have different views, like the example that Will gave before. From where he was standing, that didn't look like a penalty because he was in a different position. But where the other referee was standing, it did look like a penalty. So again, the same situation viewed from different positions can look different. And you need to remember that when you have a delegate at an event, they're sitting in the middle of the pool at the table watching from there. You're standing on the side of the pool looking at that event from a different angle. So again, it's always important to understand they're viewed from different angles. So with this, we always have to have an open mind. There is always something you can learn from everything that is said to you. So feedback is part of your growth. It is really important to listen before you react. So if my delegate starts to say, oh, Nicola, with that, oh, no, but I thought this. No, this is not how we receive feedback. We listen to what the delegate has to say before we react. It gives us a chance to process what they're saying, think about what angle they're coming from, and see if we see it the same. The other thing is the feedback is about your action. It's not about you as a person. So don't take feedback personally. When you give feedback, it's saying, you know, Will, when you call that penalty, can you explain to me why? Because from where I was, it looked like the player was not facing the goal. So I didn't say, Will, you are an idiot. What did you call that penalty for? It's not me attacking him. It's questioning the action that he has caused. So again, that's really important. And the other thing is you should be thankful for that person taking the time and effort to give you feedback. Because if they are not giving you feedback and they're not giving you the time of day, they don't believe that you can do any better. So if someone is silent in offering you feedback, that's when I would be more worried, because it's like, well, they don't think I'm going to listen. They don't think I'm going to implement anything they're saying, so they're not going to waste their time. So I would be more concerned if no one wanted to give me feedback than other people. So again, be open, keep these things in mind, and accept the feedback that is offered to you. So how should you respond? As I said, listen to the feedback. If you want to ask a question, ask it respectfully. So let them finish and then just say, okay, just to clarify, when you spoke about this situation, what did you mean by that? Or what did you think I could have done differently? So ask questions, be curious, but don't come across as a know-it-all where you don't ask anything or you just go negative against everything they say. So be prepared and be willing to ask for clarity, but again, do it in a respectful way. Also, after that feedback session, I would be suggesting, and I know that, journaling might be something that in the olden days, put a note in your phone. Somewhere you need to be keeping track of what feedback is offered to you. Do, as a referee, you have a journal where when you've had this feedback, whether it's every day in BMJC or after every game of a tournament. I certainly do. I go and jot down what feedback was given to me. And then I'm going to work out, of that feedback that I've received, what action or actions am I going to take next time? Because if I'm not going to take any action that's any different to what I've just done, I may as well have not listened to the feedback, because I'm not actioning anything to make my future decisions different. So again, some steps. Listen and record. So again, don't argue. Don't stand there going, no, but I did this. Yes, but. When I hear yes, but, straight away I'm like, oh, here we go. So try not to do a yes, but when you're listening to your feedback. So once you've listened, you've recorded it, again, don't react immediately. Let them finish. If there's the chance to watch it on video, just say, oh, look, it'd be great to watch this in video. Do you think we could sit down and watch this situation? And then you could decide, once you've seen the situation again, did I make the right decision or did I not? The important thing with journaling, which I mentioned on the previous page, is, can I start to see any patterns that are coming to me in my feedback from different delegates? If I can see a pattern that is coming through, then that's something that I would be thinking I need to be working on. So am I interpreting this rule wrong, or am I just not consistent in applying that rule? So again, if you don't journal things, whether it's on your phone, whether it's into a book, you can't, well, you might be able to, but I can't remember what someone told me 2 months ago. But if I can go back and look at what someone told me 2 months ago and a month ago and last week, and if I go, oh, three different people on 3 different occasions have said I'm not playing centre forward advantage well enough, then, okay, maybe that's something I need to do a little bit better. But again, if you think you can remember all of that, that's great. Again, when I'm querying or asking for clarification, be professional. Again, avoid emotions, just keep it really factual, and make sure you ask the questions in the right way. Again, dealing with that conflicting instruction. So you're asking for guidance, not to challenge, but to improve. So again, that's why it's important to think about the way you ask something, because I've had questions asked of me that I can tell genuinely that person wants to know because they want to improve. But I've also been able to get the impression by the way that person is asking is that they're challenging. They don't believe that what they've been told is correct. So if you're getting different advice from different people, in any event that you're in, there will be a head delegate, a referee coordinator, someone will be appointed to that. You need to be able to go up to that person and just say, look, can I get your advice? Because I've received 3 differing opinions from 3 different delegates on playing the advantage. And I'm just unsure how I should proceed. So you're not saying Mary was wrong, John was wrong, and Bill was right. I've got differing opinions. Can I get your advice on how I should move forward? Now, if that head delegate or referee says to you, which delegate said what, don't be afraid to share that. You're not dobbing that person in. It just gives that person, well, one, you don't necessarily know what the referee delegate might do, but they can go to that person, or in the next meeting that they have, they can say, okay, from what I've observed, this area is not being represented well to our referees. As delegates, we need to ensure we're giving this information. So by you going to that referee coordinator or head delegate, that's also helping them to have some consistency across. Again, implement the feedback in the current competition. So think about the context. If I'm refereeing under 18 or under 17 NSC, then the next week I come back and referee under 12 BMJC, the feedback that I got at a 17 national level is not necessarily going to apply to an under 12 local competition. So just be careful that when you're implementing your feedback, it's at the current competition's level. Again, the communication with your referees that we've spoken about. If you remain calm and you can do this in a professional way, it can earn you respect in the long term as well. So I didn't go up to the referee coordinator and say, these delegates have got no idea what they're doing. Everyone's telling me something different. What am I meant to do? You've gone up to say, look, I've received feedback from 3 different people. Can you please help me in this situation? So again, the way that you present yourself, the way that you question it is going to help in building rapport and respect and relationships in the referee circles. And again, as I said before, once you've got that clarity, record what it was so that you can take it moving forward. And the last thing before I throw open to any questions or comments again is after that competition, turn confusion into growth. So I had this confusion by the conflicting advice. I've been to someone that can help clarify what should I be doing in the future. Now I'm going to grow from that, and when I go home or the next day I referee, I'm going to try and implement that. Please be aware, conflicting feedback is normal at performance events. You will never, ever, ever get every delegate and every referee on the same page. It would be brilliant if we did, but for the reasons I explained before, it will never happen. So just be prepared that you will get that conflicting feedback, but also hopefully you've then got some strategies now on how you can process and deal with that. Review all the feedback objectively. Again, you can always take something from everyone. Identify those trends that are coming across, and then if everyone is saying it, then it's probably that there is that area that you can work on. If you've got the opportunity, use video sessions. If you don't have that opportunity, at least mentor discussions to try and reconcile some of this conflicting information. And you've got to build your own principles. So as a referee, how am I going to operate? What are my morals? What are my values? What are my principles? How am I prepared to build me as the referee so that I can grow and develop and get better? And how can I then be taking feedback from people to learn from them? Okay, I probably rushed through that last one a little bit, but what I'm going to do now, again, is I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see some faces again. And what I'd like to do now is, and it is only 8:12, so I'm sure we're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes anyway. Does anyone have any questions or comments or something they've learnt from that last section, or an example that they have been involved in that they would like to share, just so that I know that hopefully some of that information that's been shared tonight is of use for you moving forward in your refereeing or delegating or whatever roles that you perform. So I'm going to throw it open to the floor for any questions, comments. Was it useless? Why did we bother? Didn't get anything out of it? Please share.
I think it was great, Nicola. From a delegate's perspective, 100% correct with what you've put there on the slide. I think people tend to forget that you've got a huge opportunity in between your games when you're having your little break. Go and sit with a delegate. Go and sit just by their side. Have a conversation about something that you've seen in the game that you're both looking at, and just clarify something with them. They're just great opportunities. The delegates love it. Helps keep us awake, but no slower games. But, it's a great opportunity because amongst those delegates, you might actually find a mentor that you can reach out to post-carnivals, anytime during your own local competitions, just to have a conversation with them. Like, I have a young friend in Sydney and he rings me probably every 6 or so weeks just for a check-in, tells me what he thinks he's improved on, what he's found challenging, and then we talk about, okay, how can we move on from that, or what do you think you can use to get a better result the next time round? So they're just some great tips, but the delegate's there for a great reason. Take advantage of it.
Thanks, Gail. That's really good. And Mia, I don't know if you would be prepared to say anything. Something we did in Premier League and Premier League Reserve this year when we had our Super Sunday, when all the teams were at the Valley, we offered the opportunity for 5 of our developing referees who are not at the level yet to actually referee Premier League and Premier League Reserve to actually sit on the table, not on the table, at the table next to the delegate, and the delegate was speaking to them during the game about things that were happening. And then unless the delegate had some really hard news to share with the referees at the end, the young mentored or mentee referee was allowed to listen to the feedback that was given. Now, Mia was one that had that opportunity. Mia, I don't know if you're able to speak at the moment or if you're at the pool or somewhere.
Yeah, I can speak on it. I'm just in the room.
Great, thanks, Mia.
I thought it was a great opportunity being able to sit at the table and ask them questions about like how they are writing their feedback for the referees. Like being able to ask what's going through your mind watching them referee, watching the game, and just knowing like what are you looking out for as a delegate, what are you wanting to write as feedback for them, and then at the end like being able to join in that conversation of the referees having that conversation after the game was really interesting because you're not usually a part of it. Being able at like such a Premier League like game, you usually watch it, but you're not usually there listening to what they're talking about. So it was quite like informational being able to do that.
Thanks, Mia. And did you notice, because I know you weren't there for the whole day, but did you have 2 different delegates that you got to work with or only one because of the short time you were there?
I only had one. I was only there for one game.
Okay, so I can't ask you to compare how the delegates were. Yeah, but that was something that we introduced this year that we thought would be useful for those referees that we know have Premier League and Premier League Reserve on the sites in the future. So thanks for that, Mia. Are there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to make before we wrap up this evening? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming along, and for those that I know that some of you have been to all 4 of the sessions that we've had this year. Hopefully you have found them useful. If you are interested, I am happy to send out the presentation that I used tonight that you can then use to reflect on later, because I know there was a lot of information and some of it might have been more relevant for you than others, because not everyone is going to apply the same things to different situations. But if you're interested, please let me know and I can get that out to you. I will see most of you around, I think this weekend at least. We've still got one more round of BMJC, finals of Premier League and Premier League Reserve. Then we head to the coast next week for our junior countries. Then you'll all get a well-deserved break, hopefully, for Christmas and New Year. And then I look forward to seeing, I think, nearly everyone on this call at the state titles in January in Brisbane to work with and alongside you as we referee and delegate our way through 9 or 8 days of water polo. So thanks very much for joining us, and have a great Christmas, New Year if I don't see you beforehand, and look forward to you joining us again in 2026. So have a great night, everyone.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thank
It was
you.
wonderful again.
Thanks,
you.
guys. Yeah.
That was awesome. Another great job.
That was the hardest one because I actually had to do it all from scratch, because all the others you can rely on rules and elaborate. I want to say hardest. It just took the most time to put together, because it had to be, okay, like, what are my thoughts? Where am I in this process? But yeah, hopefully, but it was, I mean, I know it's hard at this time of year, but I know like Armley was one that asked for the session.
Yeah.
I think this is still recording. Just wait a sec. What am I doing here? Not that it matters. Why is my mouse all over the shop? Here we go. Recording. Stop recording. Stop recording. Okay.